Hello guys, this is Defi right here. In this video, we're talking about Web3 again. So in this video, very quickly, I'm going to be teaching you exactly what Web3 is, right? We're going to be taking a deep dive into what Web3 is and different ways to earn from it, right? So I'm going to have a playlist right here on YouTube, right? You're going to just access the playlist. So this is like the very first video that introduces you to what Web3 is, right? People want to make money from Web3, but they don't really know what it is. So first things first, this video is going to break down what Web3 is in the next 10 to 20 minutes. Might be shorter, but yeah, I'm just proposing. So what exactly is Web3 and what should you understand? Web3 is believed to be airdrops because during that time of Amstar combat, I think a lot of persons were involved and they think they are automatically Web3 enthusiasts. We could see Suya men, people that sell things in the market. Everybody was deeply involved in airdrops and they thought that's the general idea of Web3. Web3 is not crypto trading. Web3 is not degen trading. Web3 is not airdrop farming, right? The idea of Web3 is much more larger than it. That's why you hear people say they are not here for the money, they are here for the tech, right? So Web3 is more of a tech innovation, right? It is tech inclined, right, to help people make better use of the internet. I think that's like a better way to explain it. Now let me break it down. So think of Web3. Before we have 3, we definitely have 3 is a progression from 1, 2, and then 3, right? So before we have 3, we definitely had 1, we had 2. So what is Web 1? What is Web 2? What is Web 3? I believe breaking down this evolution will make you better understand what they stand for, right? So Web 1 is basically called, each of them, I'll give them a nickname, right? The Web 1 is called the read-only web, call it RO, right? So the read-only web, think of it as Wikipedia. Wikipedia, for example, is a typical example of the Web 1 innovation. You observe that with Wikipedia, you can only read posts, right? You can only read what people, what the owners of Wikipedia have shared. I might be wrong, but as when I checked Wikipedia last, that was the only thing you could do, right? Unlike Facebook, Twitter, and the others, you can only just read things, right? So that was how Yahoo was too at the time. You can only just read stuff, just read. You can't really do anything on those things you are reading, right? The owner of the platform are the only ones that have the ability to write anything on that website, right? The other people that are not involved in the building of that platform can only. So the Web 1 innovation was called the read-only web, right? Now we moved on to the Web 2, and the Web 2 had 2 more features. That's read and write. So you don't only just read on Web 2, you can also write. What does that mean? Think of Web 2 tech as being able to create posts and share posts and leave comments and all that. You just have ability over contents, right? In Web 1 now, only one person has power over content. Only one person. And with that, fake news can be spread everywhere. There can be misinformation and all that. There's a lot around it, right? And they discovered that there is need to upgrade. So we moved on to Web 2 to curb that issue. So in Web 2, Facebook is a typical example of Web 2. So with Facebook, you realize that you have the ability to create posts, you have the ability to share posts, you have the ability to comment, to like, to just do anything on your content. You even hear people saying you plagiarize my content, you copied my content and all that. You have power over your content in Web 2. So on Facebook you can post, on Twitter you can post, on YouTube you can post. You basically have power to post stuff that you can think of, stuff that you can imagine, right? So that's Web 2 innovation. Now with that, they realized that most of these Web 2 companies have something called a database. Inside that database, your details, my details, everything are stored there, right? So that leads to us not having privacy. There are people that do not like their details being out there. So how these Web 2 companies make their money is that they sell these details to advertisers, to people that need this data, legally or illegally, we don't know. So these people give out our details. That's why you realize that certain ads come to you. Facebook is not making money off of your 2 gig, 3 gig data that you are doing. They are not making money off of it. I heard someone saying that. So that's not how they make their money. They make their money by selling your data off to people that need them, right? It may not be directly, but through advertisement. For example, you see certain ads on your phone let's say probably you are 18 to 35, you see certain ads that relate to 18 to 35 years of age. Why are you seeing that ad? You are seeing that because the company that is centralized, that centralized company, has sold your data over to people that need them, right? And as soon as they get this data, they make use of them. Some people make use of them illegally, some people make use of them legally. Now, to curb this, they introduced Web3. The concept of Web3 is to bring in decentralization. Now, power will no longer be, your data will no longer be in the hands of the centralized organizations, right? It's going to be in your hands. You have control over data. So instead of using the database, we use something called blockchains to record activities and all that. It is very transparent. We'll get to that later. So what Web3 introduced is the idea of decentralization. Your details are not in the hands of creators of those apps. Think of it as MetaMask, for example. You realize that when you want to sign up on MetaMask, you don't have to necessarily enter your details. You'll just be given a 12 key, 12 phrase or whatever. Then you'll be asked to save it. It's called mnemonics. It's just keys. So you'll be asked to save it, and if you lose this, that's all, right? So for things like this, you have power over your material, you have power over your data, you have power over your content. So there are apps like this, like apps that copy the same content with MetaMask. For example, now a social media app can come out in Web3, and they will not necessarily ask you to sign up with any of your details. They don't care about your name, they don't care about your date of birth and all that, right? They will just ask you to log in with any of your wallets, decentralized wallet. On that wallet too, none of your details are there, right? It's just your private key that you use to access it, right? So you just log in with that. So they don't have any of your details. So you can just enter your username, like you can just give a username, for example, and share your content and do stuff and probably even get paid, right? So that's the concept of Web3. So you see that Web3 is much more larger than the idea of airdrops, right? Now I'm going to break the concept of airdrops down much later in this video. Alright, just before we move on, I have something very important I want to tell you, and I would like that you do it, right? Don't worry, don't be scared, right? Don't be scared. Alright, so I know, me and you, we know together that you have that one family member, you have that coursemate, you have that friend that is interested in Web3, but you will not want to share this video. Please refuse the urge not to share this video. You are helping people's life. I mean, this thing is something, I started graphic design in 2022, and between 2022 to 2023, yeah, I could not boast of over 1 million that I've made, right? But in Web3, I've made over 1 million in less than 1 year of learning it. So it is something that the entry requirements, like the criteria for entry, is low. You just need your smartphone, data, and willingness to learn, right? That's all you need. That's all you need. And just give yourself 1, 2, 3 months. You may not start making $1,000, $10,000 and the like people out there. A lot of them are scams, but you will definitely start making good money, right? So if you know someone you want to help, your kid, your brother, your cousin, whatever, anyone that you just feel this might be of value to, please do well to share right now, and we'll meet them at the top. All right, so let's go back to all right, so we are back, and that was just a quick commercial break. I don't know that guy that said that thing, but yeah, let's go on. So we are discussing about what Web3 is, and I was saying you should not be tempted to box Web3 into airdrops. Web3 is far bigger than the concept of airdrop, right? So it is important to know that Web3 is not just airdrop. You see that a lot of persons that thought they were doing Web3 through hamster combat, then a lot of them have disappeared because they really do not get the concept, right? So I used an example of MetaMask. I realized that a lot of you might not know what MetaMask is. MetaMask is a digital wallet, right? Think of it as I've been saying think of it a lot because like illustrations allow people to get things clearer, right? So think of it as a wallet, but not in your hands, not a physical wallet. It is not spiritual either, don't worry. So it's not a physical wallet, it's not spiritual, it's a digital wallet, right? Inside your phone, just like this OP, Pampy and the likes. But these wallets do not store Naira, right? And they do not store normal dollars that we are familiar with. What they store are digital assets like crypto, NFTs and the likes. That's what they store basically, right? Though it will be recorded there as dollars, but the things you'll be seeing are cryptos, are tokens, USDT, USDC, and like that.
I don't want to advertise any other company. They didn't pay me for that. My school didn't pay me to advertise for them.
Alright, so yeah, let's go back to what we're saying. So Web3 is not just airdrop, it is not limited to airdrop. I know a lot of persons are tempted to think this, right? Web3 is bigger than that. So having said that, there are a couple of things that are very important Web3 terms that a lot of people use to sway you off your feet. I saw someone saying they just use one English like that and say,
and they told her invest $2,000 and you get 300% return on investment.
And this person dropped $2,000 and was expecting, I think like $4,000. Is it $4,000, $5,000 next week? Up till today, the person has not gotten it, right? So don't let them use these terms to sway you off your feet. You have ChatGPT, you have Google, you have me, right? Ask questions. So I've created a community where you can ask questions like this. Any question around anything tech. I'm Dev Tech, right? So ask questions around anything related to tech. If your fridge is not on, enter the group and ask. If your AC is not working, if your data is finishing quickly, enter the group and ask, right? So I'm building a community for techies. If you are doing anything related to tech, software engineering, graphics design, digital marketing, copywriting, anything related to tech, whether it's technical or not technical, as far as it's tech, what are you doing? Tech skill, enter the group, right? So there'll be a lot of information dropped there, and we'll have like the chat community where you can ask questions and all that. It is ready, but I've never dropped the link, so I'm going to be dropping it now, and we're going to be building it together, right? Alright, so let's get back to what we're saying. So there are a couple of Web3 terms that you have to get familiar with so that you will not easily get swayed off your feet by just random English and jargons by some acclaimed Web3 expert, right? Alright, this is another very short commercial break. You know, this video is quite long, so let's just chip in a few here and there so that it will be interesting. So I had to change my outfit so that you know what I want to talk about here is different and spectacular. So if you are someone that wants to learn a tech skill like front-end development, data science, data analysis, and machine learning, if you're interested in this skill, you want to understand these things, right? The advantage of this is that when you have skills, especially as a Web3 person, you are able to charge more. Imagine not having any skills. Best you can do is probably shilling or reading on X and Telegram. Yeah, don't worry, we'll get to that later. But that's like the best you can do most times, and probably moderating or community management. But when you have tech skills like this, right, you can easily charge thousands of dollars for your service, right? So if you want to learn data science, data analysis, and front-end development, Tech is just that brand for you. Now let me tell you two amazing things about them. They are teachers, the lecturers in Tech have taken the data science course. The lecturers in Tech are nothing short of amazing, right? They are literally one of the best around. Why? Because they have real life experiences with big companies in and outside the country, right? These guys are not just teaching you the skill alone, they will teach you about how to use it in real life. You know, that's the disadvantage of most of these bootcamps that you see. They will just teach you the skill, they will not teach you like the applications and deep things around it, right? So people that have these deep experiences can teach you more, right? So aside getting amazing lecturers like this, you also get an amazing certificate. Now this is not John, this might be oddly specific, but please, that's not what I mean. So this is not John Bosco or Aaron's kind of certificate. Tech is certified by two companies, one in UK and one in America. They are certified by the UK Register of Learning Providers and also certified by the American Council of Training and Development, ACTD, right? So these two certifications alone, inside that certificate that they want to give to you, so you know it is certificate of certificates, right? So it is important that you, one, learn from them, and to get that certification. Now that they are certified and they are registered, if you apply for a company and they just go and check who certified this guy, they see that it's Tech, they'll be like, give him the job, he's the man for the job. Do you get? All right, so that's like the advantage, right? So they used to host cohorts from time to time, and you can get to be a part of it, right? Just click the link in the description below to follow Tech on Instagram so that I get updated every time a new cohort is starting. That being said, let's go back to Web3. So I'll be explaining certain fundamental things relating to Web3, right? They are like the building blocks of Web3. These things are very important. You can't tell me you are doing Web3. And that is how I catch people that entered Web3 through airdrops. You can't tell me you are doing Web3 and you don't know these fundamental things. Alright, so first thing we are starting with is blockchain technology. So what exactly is the blockchain? Now, I know a lot of you that are watching this video would have heard it a billion times, but blockchain is basically like a ledger where everything you do on Web3 is recorded. When I send money to someone is recorded. When I send money to my wallet, basically anything I do on the in Web3 is recorded on blockchain. Now, it is a public unchangeable record. Let me put it that way, right? So just think of it as 5 friends, right? 5 of us. Now, in our house, each of us, my dad gives us paper, right? That anything we pick from the fridge, we should write it inside the paper, and everybody should update the paper, right? So when I go to the fridge and I pick 1 egg, my brother has to write it. We are 5, right? The 4 other people have to update it. After I've written my own, have to update it in their record that, okay, David has picked 1 egg. So automatically, let's say there are 10 eggs there, my daddy will come and just check one of us, then correlate it with the others and see that, okay, in the fridge there should be 9 eggs. Now this will allow for accuracy every time, right? Because if I go back there and I go and carry 1 more egg, and I think parents should adopt this. When I become a parent, I will adopt this. I will give my children one paper. We are doing blockchain tech in this house because I'm literally Dev Tech. Why don't we employ tech solutions here, right? So if I go back there in the night and I go and carry 1 more, right, and I don't write it in my book, or probably I write it, if I write it there and I didn't update my brother, it will not get updated. So my dad will know that I probably stole that egg, right? So that is the beautiful thing about blockchain tech. Everything is recorded there, and you see that when you do certain transactions, you see that it's right. Them 21 block confirmation or something like that. Different chains have different blockchain confirmation. Don't worry, we'll get to chains and all that. So different chains have different block confirmations, right? So BSC, Ethereum, Sol, and all the other ecosystems that we have out there, they have different number of confirmations that they have to go through, right, before they get approved. So when they get approved, you just see there. For example, whenever my client pays me, the client I designed for, so whenever they pay me, instead of them to send, when we do transfer now in Naira, we send something called proof of transaction. I've forgotten, POF I think. So we send proof of transaction to the person we send the money to, like screenshots and all that. But in Web3, what you do is you send the link, because everything is recorded in the blockchain, right? So you just send the link to where it is recorded. Automatically that link will be generated when you send the money, right? So just send the link, person will go and confirm. So you cannot even really lie about, though there are scammers and all that, but you cannot really lie about it, right? If someone sends you money, they can basically send you the link and you check and confirm, right? So that is blockchain technology, right? It's a public system that records everything done in Web3, right? So the next thing we'll be talking about now, I believe you already understand what decentralization is, so we'll be skipping that. Now let's talk about DeFi, right? We already spoke about decentralization. Now we are putting 2 things together: decentralized finance. That's what DeFi is. DeFi, decentralized finance. So what does it mean? Now, where all these our earning, staking, vesting, cryptocurrencies are under this part of Web3, decentralized finance, right? So you earn through different ways here. This is not necessarily about earning, it's about the system, right? This is like the system, right? So just consider DeFi as the system for Web3. Banking is the system for transacting money. Let me break this down. Banking is the system for transacting money in this, like our current age in Web2, right? These banks have all our details. You'll be shocked that these people know your mother's name and your father's name, your next of kin, right? They have these details in your hands, right? So the bank is a typical example of a Web2 brand. Should I call it brand? They are bigger than brand too. All right. So the bank is a typical example of a Web2 company because they are centralized, obviously, and all our data is in their hands. And this is honestly why Web3 might not fly easily, because it's literally taking power off of the bank and the government. Right? They cannot control everything like they are controlling right now. I mean, the reason why Bitcoin was created was, I think Bitcoin and XRP was so that we can transfer money without necessarily using middlemen, institution, and all that. We can just send money from one person to another. So banking is the system we use to transact money. For example, if I want to send money to someone, banking system. If I want to receive money from someone, banking system. If I want to borrow money, banking system. So the system here is banking. Now the system in Web3 is Defi. There you can stake, you can do yield, you can do vesting, you can trade cryptos, you can do anything related to money, right? That's the system in Web3, right? Aside that, we have something called DAOs. They are organizations, right? Decentralized organizations. Like they just come and just make stuffs around Web3, right? Aside that, we have something called dApps. dApps are, they just like adding that D to things. So I can just come tomorrow and say, oh, my name is even David already. Decentralized David.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
Alright, so away from that, so dApps are decentralized apps. So any app that you see that uses this decentralization tech is a dApp. Alright, so there are a lot of dApps out there that uses the decentralization tech to build that stuff, right? So aside that, we have something called smart contract. So this smart contract is a tech built, I'm not a programmer, right? So I'm going to be breaking this down for you to understand. So these smart contracts are tech solutions built upon the blockchain. These things happen automatically, right? Just think of it that as a system, right? That it is programmed that immediately you put 500 naira inside the system, it immediately gives you Coke automatically. So smart contract is one of those automatic systems programmed into the blockchain that automatically performs certain actions when you are basically doing anything in Web3, right? Now, what are airdrops? Airdrops are a way, sorry about that. Sorry, airdrops are means that communities, Web3 brands use to raise awareness for their brands and also reward community members, right? So when you participate in things like their testnets, I'll break down testnet too. So when you participate in things like their testnets, their community events, you play their games, you use their apps and all that, they basically reward you with their token. So each company, tomorrow now, I can decide to make a decentralized app, a dApp, right? And I'll call it DevTech app, right? But it is built on Web3 tech, right? So to raise awareness, I will now tell people that use my app and I will give you something called DTech token, right? I'll create a token called DTech. Obviously, there are people that build it. They use things like raw solidity and they build it upon certain chains, right? Don't worry, we'll get to that. So I can name that my token DTech. When I name it DTech, I will now tell people that I will reward you with DTech. I would have known, I would start asking for fundraising, investors, and money, basically anything that brings money. So I'll ask people to join, because basically if nobody uses my app, it is useless. What's the point of creating the app? So I want people to use it, and based on that, I am going to start asking people to perform certain tasks around it, and that's where testnet comes in, right? Let me break down testnet. For example, let's say DevTech app is an app that allows you to send crypto from one person to another. Before I bring the app out, it's more like beta testing, but it's not. So before I bring the app out, I will tell people that if you use this thing to perform transaction, I will call it test tokens. Now, I will call that DTech test tokens because it has not listed. It does not have any real life value yet. So I'll just tell you I can give you like 500 test tokens to start with. You can't use that one yet. That's not the airdrop. So I can tell you that the more you use it, like when you transfer any amount in a day, out of those 500 test tokens that I give you, I will give you 2 DTech. Do you get? So that 2 DTech, you keep accumulating. Let's say you now accumulate it till TGE. TG is basically when they list, right? It's called token generation event. So let's say you accumulate 2,000 at the end of the TG, and eventually my token list at $1 per one. You've accumulated 2,000. That's equivalent to $2,000. So that's the idea around airdrops and testnet. I believe I've broken two things down at once. So that's the idea behind testnets and airdrops, right? So there's also something called mainnet. When I eventually list that token, that test token that you are using to transact, I migrated it from test tokens to real tokens, and it has real life value. It is called mainnet, right? So that aside, there's also something called chain. I believe you understand it. I like the fact that I'm taking this progressively for anybody to easily understand it. So there's something called chain. ETH has its own chain. Solana has its own chain. I think Avax. What other chain? There are a lot of them out there. There's Sonic, FTM, formerly called FTM, right? There are a lot of them out there. There's BSC and a lot of others, right? So these chains they are called L1. They are called L1s. These ones that are typically chains. So on top of this L1, we can build things inside. Like we can use the tech of that L1 to build an L2, right? So an L2 is built to help the L1. So under ETH, I can build something called fast H, right? The reason why I built fast H is probably to make ETH faster, right? That fast H is also a token. So people will start investing in fast H so that I can keep building more things that will help ETH to progress. So ETH is called an L1. Fast H is an L2 that is to help that L1 scale and become better. You might be asked this in a quiz, who knows? Alright, so it's becoming darker here. The value is the most important thing, right? Alright, so I'll keep spilling the value until you are filled. Alright, so that being said, let's go on. So we have ETH, for example. Now, it is under each of these chains that the gem comes in. Even Tron, you know how people shouted TRX, Tron that year. So Tron is also a chain. Avax is also a chain. Sonic is also a chain. BNB, BSC is also a chain, right? So ETH is also a chain. So under these things, people now build something called. Now let me explain what degenerates are. I'm going to break this things down into video. I'll look for how I'm going to structure it. So there is also something called meme coins. Meme coins don't have any real life value, right? So those, like for example, I told you fast H, right? Let's say it was built, fast H is an L2, right? It was built to help ETH. Now fast H is built under ETH chain, right? So fast H is built under that ETH chain to help ETH. So fast H is an utility. Why? Because it has real life value, real life use, basically, right? So tokens that does not have any meaning, like those dog farts, those Trump tokens that you are seeing, those Davido tokens, those whiskey tokens, all those tokens that in real life they are not useful. Those tokens are called meme coins, and that's where degen trading comes in. So if you want to be a degenerate, don't worry, I'll create a separate video on that probably later. Alright, so that's where degen trading comes in. They basically trade tokens that have no real life value. So they buy them at low prices and sell them high. That's at a much more later time, right? So that's the idea behind crypto degen trading and meme coins. Alright, so with that being said, I think this is a perfect time to draw the line in the video. I've shared a whole lot in just this episode, right? So in the next episode, I will be breaking down different parts of Web3 that you can earn from, right? So I'm going to be sharing extensively different parts of Web3 that you can earn from. I believe this beginner guide is enough for you to make research. I've mentioned a whole lot that you can just go on ChatGPT and do researches on, right? So those do further research, right? My next video is not necessarily going to be explaining the former one. It's going to be talking about how to earn from it, because I believe people that are watching this are not watching this for the tech. They're watching this for the moolah. Alright, so yeah, that being said, my next video is going to be around how to earn from it, right? The other video I made is relating to how to get Web3 jobs. You can check it out right here, right? Ambassador jobs. This one is basically talking about how you can earn, different ways you can earn. This is not going to just be limited to jobs alone, right? That being said, please remember what we said that time. That guy is back again. Please remember what we said that time. I beg you. You have that friend, you have that brother, you have that sister, you have that dad. Okay, your daddy might not want to learn Web3, but you have that person that wants to learn Web3. Please don't deprive them of their chance of learning and taking advantage of it. Please, you see that I'm coming closer. please. Thank you so much for sharing. Do well to subscribe, like, and share this video to someone you love. That being said, I'll see you in the next one. Make sure you check below for the link to join the TG channel TG Telegram. So the Telegram channel I created for you to ask questions relating to tech. Please make sure to click the link and join. That being said, I'll see you in the next video.